Bom dia. That's about everything I will say in Portuguese today, but um, no falo português. This is why I will probably continue in English. And I first of all want to thank Carolina and Alberto and everybody else for having me here at the conference. The topic is kind of simple: one world, diverse cultures. So why are we speaking about diverse cultures on an economic international forum? I think it's quite easily explained. Culture is something that defines all of us. And even if we live in one world and it's one planet, a planet we all are up to save in the upcoming years, still culture is so important, not only in political aspects and society aspects, but also in business aspects, that it does make a lot of sense to speak about it in conferences like this one today here in Porto. In Portugal, people, like everywhere in the Mediterranean, people are more or less, hey guys, how's it going? Superb. Don't do this in Iran. This is just an example why culture is so important. This would be quite an insultive and offensive gesture in some countries of the world. But same exists vice versa. If you had a very nice lunch and you start burping afterwards, I guess most people here would be very distracted. What is the guy doing? In other cultures, this is kind of symbolizing lunch was good. We can try it later at the lunch break, but I wouldn't suggest to do it. Why am I not suggesting doing this? Well, because culture has a huge influence on sympathy. And if you want to do business with whomever, the best thing is to get a personal relationship. Building up a personal relationship always involves having sympathy for somebody. So if you misunderstand the culture, if you get the things wrong, then you will most probably, without the other one even thinking about it, have a problem with sympathy. And a sympathetic problem might always lead to bad business. And actually, that's the same what happens in politics. I got probably one of the best trainings the last 4 years being a member of the German Bundestag on the Foreign Affairs Committee. And of course, the Foreign Affairs Committee is always engaged with all the different countries, all the different issues, all the huge issues we have nowadays with neo-autocrats in other countries, with, when you name them, you know these issues. But I would say 60 or 70% of these issues actually arise due to the fact that we don't understand each other's cultures. That's especially when it comes to Asia. There's so many differences. Asia is very much not only China, and I know there's some Chinese friends here today, and I mean, we've already heard from Macau and other regions, but looking at the way that China developed over the last centuries and the way that Confucius and the philosophy that underlies on their society has a completely different understanding than I would say the liberal societies that we live in the West, especially in the United States, where it's even more liberal in the sense of a libertarian than it is in probably Europe. This shows that the individual plays a completely different role in the West than it does in the East. In the Far East and in Asia, it's a collective that actually counts as a role. And I think this is what we have to consider, doing foreign affairs, but doing as well business. If you don't understand these differences, you will find it very difficult to find a sympathetic way to talk to your counterparts in business and in politics all around the world. So one thing that's very important is open-mindedness and humbleness. You need to be humble, acknowledging that other cultures and other people have a completely different, probably sentiments on different things. So let me just point out, I know Alberto for many years. I used to be the president of the Junior Chamber of Commerce in Germany. And due to the JCI, we always have a big World Congress. So I remember we had the World Congress in Rio de Janeiro. It was up to us, the German Youth Association of Young Entrepreneurs, to meet with the Japanese youth organization, or JCI Japan organization. Now, being the president, of course, I needed to bring a gift, which is just something absolutely normal during these presentations. I completely forgot to buy something in Germany. Usually it's easy. I get a small beer mug or something. Japanese people love that. That's cool. But I didn't have anything. So I went out shopping, looking for a gift, around about 40, 50 euros. That's around about for something I could present the Japanese an hour later. I found a nice churrasco kind of, some knives and stuff. So I thought, well, that looks nice. It's something typical Brazilian. Let's buy it. So I bought this churrasco set. I donated it as a gift to the Japanese counterpart, a good friend of mine nowadays. And the guy was shocked. I did something terribly wrong. I gave a knife to a Japanese counterpart, symbolizing in Japanese, I'm wishing him death. This is not how you build sympathy, something I didn't know. So, of course, Japanese being very polite, he wouldn't tell me anything. But afterwards, I was speaking to a friend of mine. She's Japanese. And she said, Alex, you're so crazy. You're so weird. Never give a knife to a Japanese counterpart. This is kind of the worst thing you can do. I'm just telling this because this is one of the examples where cultural differences make such a huge influence. And now, just if this wouldn't have happened at a youth organizational world congress somewhere in Rio, which is not a big thing, but imagine this happens in politics. Imagine this happens in foreign affairs. And I can tell you, after 4 years of experience in the German Bundestag, it happens all the time. This is one of the main reasons. We were just speaking early on, if as a politician you get training on these kind of questions. No, we don't. We don't. Even as members of the Foreign Affairs Committee, we don't have a training on how to behave in international policies. As diplomats, we do, which is very important, but not as MPs. That's a disaster. So we have democratic members of parliament from all the countries running around all over the world, meeting each other, but none of them are trained on how to behave international-wise. And I can say this for the German side. We are probably a very arrogant country in many, many ways. And if we have our members of parliament walking around talking to other people, very often there's this kind of resentment of superiority or something, which is the worst thing you can do in international relations, because this kind of is once again a killer for sympathy. Sympathy and culture are the most defining ways to actually get along with other people. And if we want to engage, and this is definitely the goal for the European Union and for many others, if we want to engage in multilateral organizations and institutions even more, I'm very happy that the governor of Maputo is here today and others. How should we do this if not building up sympathy, if not respecting each other's culture, and not only respecting it, but also acknowledging it and at least try to adapt to it? I mean, nobody expects us to especially in Asia, because it's just horribly difficult. We're gaijin in Japan, will always be. So it's almost impossible to meet all the standards. But still, the most important thing is trying, and at least let the counterpart know that you're trying. And that already builds up trust and sympathy. This is why diverse cultures, which is such a huge benefit to this planet and to this earth, are, for one, very important. It makes the world interesting. But secondly, mistreating them or maltreating them is even worse. So let's try. I believe this is one of the goals, and this is why I'm so very thankful also for the Congress, but mainly, Alberto, I have to say this, for Jeune, you being the president of this Youth Association. Why are these congresses so important? Why is Jeune so important? Why are these associations dearly important also to me personally? Well, simply because this is the best way to train to get along with diverse cultures, to get in touch with other people, especially young people. And this is how you manage to get all these international crises in business as well as in politics, how to overcome them. The minute you're only born in Porto, and probably the longest travel you ever did in your life was going to Lisbon, you won't know the world. You won't have a clue what is happening outside. So one thing that's very important are associations like Jeune, getting young people together, getting young entrepreneurs from all over the world together. This is what we try to do in parliaments once in a while with these interparliamentarian kind of exchange programs. But let's be honest, COVID was a disaster, not only due to the health issues that are, I think yesterday we broke the 100,000 dead mark in Germany, which is a disaster, yes. But secondly, because people weren't allowed to travel anymore. We kind of cut all these international relations. And that's also a disaster that will come after us very soon. Looking at the global world and the way it's shaped and all the neo-autocrats and all the issues that we're facing at the moment. What we did with COVID and stopping people to travel made things even worse. And decoupling and unchaining and reassuring goods, it's just as bad. If we get more independent from each other, it's easier to get in conflict with each other. So let's make sure that globalization, which is a positive thing, it has negative side effects, definitely, but it's a positive thing. Let's make sure that globalization works out in a good way, in a positive way, rather than decouple, rather than reassuring production, rather than trying to get more independent from each other. That's the wrong way. But many countries are trying to do exactly this at the moment. And I think this is also a task for us as young people, and especially for Jeune and other young youth organizations, to fight this movement, and to really counterpart it and say, no, we need to cooperate with Africa. We need to cooperate with China, even though we have politically a lot of problems, human rights discussions, Xinjiang, Taiwan, you name them. There's millions of problems. But still, we have to cooperate. We all live on this one little planet called Earth, which is probably one of the nicest stars in the universe. So let's keep it this way. And it's not going to work if we start fighting each other. I think that was a signal that as a politician, I was speaking too much again. But no, it wasn't. No, but still, I think I'll keep it here with it. But I'm sure the 10 minutes are over already. But if you would like to ask some questions, I mean, I'm very open. Now, of course, I know you're going to ask him what happens with Angela Merkel after 16 years, who's going to be the next chancellor. Do I know him? Yes, I know him quite well. He's a social democrat. Even though I'm from the Free Democratic Party, but my party is also part of the upcoming government. If you have any questions, I'll still be here. I'd be happy to answer questions in the auditorium, but also the rest of the conference. And please do approach me anytime. I just want to, yes, once again, thank the FIN2021. I've been here quite some years ago already, and I really love the conference because I found many friends, which is also interculturally, many friends, which is also one of the huge benefits. That's why we're here, networking, getting to know each other. So thanks once again for the invitation, and thanks for having me here. And as I said, any questions, please do not hesitate to approach me at any time.